Alrighty. Good morning, or good morning, I say. Ha! Good evening, everybody. Well, I suppose it's morning in some parts of the world, but good evening to everyone. It just occurred to me I left my water bottle just out of reach here, so that's right here. Okay. Once again, good to see everybody. Good to see everyone. Hopefully, we'll have some more people joining us. So that being said, welcome. Welcome. Now, if you are watching for the first time, if you've never seen the YouTube channel before or the Facebook before, welcome to you. I am the King's Bard, and you can find me on either YouTube or on Facebook. You can also find me on Twitch, and so I am live on all three at the moment. Of course, at the time of the recording of this video, not recording, but at the time of the live stream. If you're watching this via the recorded video, greetings to you as well. Glad to see everyone here. If you are new, then please like the video. If you're on Facebook, share it, get it out there. If you're on YouTube, you can also share the link. And if you are on Facebook, then like the page as well, like the King's Bard. Once again, that's the King's Bard on Facebook. You can also subscribe on YouTube and hit that notification bell so that you'll get notifications every time I go live. Or I am really planning on getting videos out this week and next week, or at least starting to do that. So this is something I'm looking forward to doing. Hopefully, I'll be able to do it, and I'm working on that. That being said, let's go ahead and not delay any longer. We're going to go ahead and get started here. So that being said, let's bow our heads for a word of prayer, and we will dive right on in. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for your grace and for your mercy. Thank you for your infinite love and for the wonderful and infinite kindness that you show to us. Lord, I ask that you would please be with us right now. Please fill us with your Spirit. And I ask that above all else that you would be lifted up. I ask that you would speak, Lord, and that your principles of health would come out. I ask, Lord, that you would be with everyone who is under the sound of my voice, and that you would draw us all close to you. Thank you so much. And please, Lord, bring people here so that they can see this. Thank you. In Jesus' name we pray and ask these things. Amen. Alrighty. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're looking at detoxing today. This is a very, very popular topic as you can see up there. We're doing detoxing. This is really an important component of natural health and something that has become popular, but it's actually quite misunderstood. And so I want to make sure that we cover detoxing here because it does play an important role in natural health. It's something that really, especially in today's day and age, with everything that all the unhealthy habits that we have, and especially more than anything else, the unhealthy food and a lot of the toxins in the environment, we need to undergo this periodically, and so it's really important that we do this. So that being, of course, doing it wisely. And so, that being said, a usual disclaimer here. The information in this presentation is for educational purposes only. It is not intended for the diagnosis, treatment, prevention, or cure of any disease. If you want to make any changes to your lifestyle, implement any natural remedies, or any regimen, please consult with a qualified physician. And of course, if you want to make any changes to any regimen you're already undergoing, please consult with a physician. So let's look at some relevant terms and information here. We've changed things up a little bit. A regimen, of course, as usual. This is a program that works with multiple facets of a person, so physical, mental, and relational, the three facets of a human being. It helps facilitate the healing. That's the whole point of a regimen. And then, of course, looking at beyond this, an infusion is an herbal preparation where boiling water is poured over the herbs. A standard ratio for an infusion is 1 teaspoon of dried herb or 2 teaspoons of fresh herb to 1 cup of water. It's best if you steep it for at least 20 minutes, but I've left it steeping as long as 8 hours, and it works great. A decoction is very similar to an infusion, except instead of pouring boiling water over the herbs, you are boiling the herbs in the water for about 10 to 15 minutes. Standard ratio for a decoction is the same as for an infusion. Now, something we've changed up a little bit. The wet sheet pack is a hydropathic application where an individual is wrapped in a sheet that's been wet in cool water and wrung out until as dry as possible. They're lying down during this process. The individual is then wrapped in a dry blanket, preferably a double blanket, and then covered with an additional, preferably wool blanket. And this is applied there's various reasons why you would do this, various lengths of application. In the case that we're talking about, it's going to be a little bit longer because you're wanting to induce sweating. This is really important. It's a diaphoretic treatment application, in particular. So it's a diaphoretic application. That's why it's going to be a little longer. You want to make sure that the individual is sweating. So, what is a detox? What is a detox? By the way, I forgot to mention, if you have questions at any point at all, please ask them in the chat. I will see them. So please ask your questions in the chat. We will also, at the end of the presentation, have a question and answer. Please don't miss that. I would be more than happy to answer your questions. But if you have any questions about the presentation at any point, just ask them in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer that. So what is a detox? Well, a detox has become pretty popular over the past few years, about the past decade or so. I remember hearing about a detox as early as 10 years ago, and I wasn't that, it's been longer since, detoxing has been around for quite some time, the past 100 years or so, but it's become very popular within the past couple decades. It's supposed to be removing toxins from the body. This is the function, the detoxification, detoxing, that's what it stands for. True detoxing, however, isn't just purging the body. That's something that's very 19th century idea. It's the idea of purging the body and getting toxins out of the body. That's not quite what's going on. True detoxing is simply an aid or a stimulant to the body's natural detoxing system. So a detox is something where you're attempting to help the body do what it does naturally, but make it stronger or more effective at what it does. It's a focus in particular on the organs of elimination. These include the skin, which is actually the largest eliminatory organ, the lungs, the liver, the kidneys, and the bowels, along with some others as well. Usually these this detox would last a short period of time, around about 1 to 3 days. I've seen people recommend a 10-day detox, a 7-day detox. Those things really aren't necessary. Usually you want about 1 to 3 days because you don't want to put your body through the ringer. Now, if you haven't ever had a detox and you have a really unhealthy lifestyle, then maybe you're looking at 7 days, maybe 10 days. But it depends on what you're doing and how intense the circumstances are, and of course the advice of your doctor. All of that comes into play, so keep that in mind. When you're looking at a detox, it's usually a short period of time, around about 1 to 3 days, but sometimes as long as 10 days if necessary. Now we're going to start looking at the different components. We're going to look at lifestyle first. Again, this is physical largely, so we're looking at the physical facet of a human being. Okay, so the physical facet of a human being is your body itself, so your organs, your muscles, and so on, and what you do with them. So your habits, your anatomy, and your physiology, and your habits. And so we're going to look mainly at the habits part of things here for now in lifestyle. There's two major components that are really, really, really important for lifestyle when it comes to detoxing. The first one is exercise. Exercise is absolutely critical when it comes to detoxing because exercise is one of the major ways that we get toxins and such out of our body. Exercise is it's simply the stimulation of the body, of the entire body. There's nothing more tonic than exercise, and there's nothing more beneficial for detoxing. Among other reasons, exercise stimulates sweating and heavy breathing, both of which eliminate toxins. Sweating is actually one of the major ways that we do get rid of toxins. That's why exfoliation is such a big thing. We'll cover that a little bit later. Exfoliation is really important because when we sweat, we let things dry out. We just have this cake of toxins. That's why bathing is so important, and why exfoliation especially is really important, especially if you have poor elimination through the skin, poor skin circulation, and so on. Heavy breathing also is supremely important when it comes to eliminating toxins, because one of the most common toxins in the body that just simply builds up from just living is carbon dioxide, because our bodies burn oxygen and produce carbon dioxide as a waste, and so in order to we need to breathe in order to get the fuel in and expel the waste product. And so carbon dioxide being the waste product, we really need to be able to get that out of the body because it is toxic. And so breathing, and the heavy breathing especially, really helps to eliminate that carbon dioxide. Also, exercise, because it's a tonic as well, makes everything more efficient. So it makes the sweating more efficient. It raises the internal core temperature. It gets the blood pumping, which means there's a more efficient and more constant exchange of toxins and nutrients and everything else. And so just overall, exercise is probably the single best thing you can do for detoxing. It's a huge, huge, huge thing. But at the same time, you want to remember, so many people, so very, very many people, when it comes to detoxing, they have the tendency to limit themselves. They have the tendency to pull back, or perhaps they have the tendency to not take in a lot of calories at this time. And generally speaking, it depends on the kind of detox you're doing. If, for example, if you're having a fast involved here, which we'll talk about fasts in a little bit, and the different kinds and such, if you're fasting, then you're going to want to watch how much you're exercising. Someone like me with a relatively fast metabolism, if I fast and exercise a ton, I'm going to lose a lot of weight. I went on a water fast for 1 day, and I ended up losing 6 pounds because I stayed pretty active through the whole thing, and all of that was water weight and glycogen reserves. And so there was that's not something that's good, because I'm already quite thin, technically underweight, according to the standards set by the USDA and so on. And so it's, or not USDA, I forget the authority that does that, but by the standards of the Dietetic Association, or whoever sets those standards, I forget, I'm underweight, and so losing 6 pounds is not something that I need to do. And there are other people out there like me. However, there are also other people who wouldn't mind losing 6 pounds in a day. And so, of course, there's differences, there's reasons why things like that happened. So, bear that in mind. Not everyone's going to have that experience. So it's really important that you watch the exercise that you're doing at this time, especially if you're fasting. You want to make sure that you take care to really make sure that you are exercising appropriately. You're not doing it too much, but you're also not doing too little of it. The other thing that you need, that is really important for as a lifestyle component for detoxing, is nothing more than just good old water. Water is the universal solvent. If you know anything about chemistry, you know that water dissolves just about anything, and at least anything that's not oil. And even then, it can still dissolve oil if it has an emulsifier. And there's plenty of emulsifiers in our bodies. And so the body uses water as the major thing to get rid of toxins. In fact, other than carbon dioxide, which is a gaseous exchange, other than the gas exchange in the lungs, virtually every other toxin is eliminated by using water. Almost every single one of them. Now, again, there are some exceptions. There's a couple here and there. Of course, sebaceous secretions and things like that with our body, which are fatty secretions. Those are also part of our excretory system. But by and large, water is the big thing that we use to eliminate toxins. And so it's really important that we get plenty of water to drink, especially when we're detoxing. It is supremely important. Supremely important. And so, and of course, if you're exercising as well, water is just a huge, huge, huge thing to really get into and really look at. It's really, really important. It's absolutely, I can't understate it, and I can't overstate it enough. Of course, in addition to exercise and water, there are some other things that we can do to really, there are some other things that we can do to really increase our detox level, and of course also really help with the detox. And the number one thing you can do with that, other than exercise and water again, is high fiber diet. You're looking at lots of whole fruits and whole vegetables, especially whole fruits, and you're looking also at high fiber starchy foods like beans and lentils and things like that. Those are also really important. That said, oats are probably a better bet for a high fiber food, high soluble fiber food for a detox, because beans and legumes in general have chemicals known as saponins that are mildly toxic. They're also almost impossible to digest, and that's what gives, other than the high fiber content and the complexity of the starches in legumes, those chemicals are is a combination of those things that makes beans and lentils and others have their unpleasant and famous side effects. So it's really important that it's probably a good idea to really moderate how much of those you take in, and sprouting them does help. So that's important to do as well. So if you are sprouting your lentils, you're sprouting your beans right before you soak them and then you cook them. In fact, sprouting them, soaking them, and so on. That's really, really important. And so, bear that in mind. In addition to reducing cooking time, it makes them easier to digest as well. The reason that a high fiber diet is so important is because it helps to eliminate toxins in the bowels. Of course, it also helps to eliminate not only toxins that are just kind of there that we haven't eliminated from our bowels in a long time. A high fiber diet also helps to get rid of cholesterol in the bloodstream, because excess cholesterol in the bloodstream, because cholesterol is converted into bile, which is then which attaches to the fiber, and the excess stuff is flushed out. Helps remove the excess bile and thus the excess cholesterol from our system. So a high fiber diet, especially high soluble fiber, is particularly important for eliminating toxins, not only in the bowels but actually in the bloodstream too. It's really important that we have that. And of course, there are plenty of foods, which I will talk about in a second, that really help with that high fiber when it comes to that. Actually, I'll just mention them now. Beets are excellent. Not only are they high fiber, they're also excellent for the liver. And so beets are one of the best things that you can do especially for your intestines and your liver, your bowels and your liver. It's huge, huge. I cannot overstate the importance of beets. Beets are just, they're amazing especially for the liver. For the liver and for the bowels, large intestines. Figs and prunes or plums are also very important. Of course, prunes are well known for their ability for their laxative qualities. If the thing is that they don't do that if you are already on a very high fiber diet. And figs are the same way. Dried figs work the same way as prunes do. Or at least so I was told. I have to say I've never really experienced that, even though I could eat a handful of figs, a handful of prunes, or two of prunes, and I wouldn't experience anything like what they're telling me, because I have already, especially at the time that I was doing that, I was eating a lot of really high fiber, and so, there's just not a whole lot when it comes to if you're eating a high fiber diet, you're getting those toxins out regularly. You don't have to worry about it. But if you don't have that, if you're not regular, if you're not having these, if you're not on a high fiber diet, you really, really, really need to get on that, because you are building up toxins in your intestines, and those toxins can lead to all sorts of different problems. And so it's really important that you do that. As a matter of fact, one of the major causes of diverticulitis, from the studies that I've seen, is actually a low fiber diet. And so it's really important that we make sure that we have that high fiber, that we continue to do that, because what happens is that the large intestine loses its tone, right? It's not as strong, and so it becomes weaker and weaker, and then you get these diverticuli that just show up, these little pockets in our system, there's kind of distensions in the large intestines, and then over time they can become inflamed, and that's of course diverticulitis. There's other things as well that can happen as a result of a low fiber diet. Of course, chronic constipation is one of them, and that's not just something that happens, it's largely due to what you eat. If you're eating a high meat diet, if for no other reason, you need to get off of that right away, because that is that is most likely the cause of, if you're suffering from constipation, that's most likely the cause if you're on a high meat diet, because you're just not getting the fiber that you need. So it's really important that beets, figs, and plums or prunes are really, really nice. They're really convenient because a lot of people can have them. They're not, figs can be a little, their texture can be a little off-putting for some. Prunes are a little better. They're much smoother, and they can be very sweet, and so it's quite good. Beets, I'm not referring necessarily to canned beets, although those are good too, but fresh beets are especially good for that. You can cook them, you can put them in a salad. There's all sorts of things you can do with beets. There's golden beets, there's the traditional or the conventional red beets. There's all sorts of different kinds of beet. The greens work too, but the root especially is very useful as a detox component for lifestyle. So putting that in your diet is really important. Once again, if you have any questions at any point, you can leave it in the chat, and I'll be answering that as much as I can, should I see any questions there. Breathing exercises are also really important. They're quite important, actually. Breathing exercises help improve the strength and efficiency of our breathing. Now, I'm not talking about the meditative stuff that a lot of people will advocate for, the stuff where you breathe in and breathe out, and you have a little ringing thing, a sound bowl or a gong or something going on in the background. That's not what I'm talking about. Those are beneficial only physically. They are not beneficial for the mind or for the spiritual or relational health. It's just, in fact, they're quite the opposite. And so because those are only beneficial physically and not mentally or relationally, it's really best if you don't do those meditative breathing exercises. Breathing exercises I'm talking about here are exercises that are designed to strengthen the diaphragm and improve the efficiency of the lungs and those organs. Breathing exercises such as that, one of the best ones that I've found is to take one hand, and it doesn't matter which one, and you take it and you put it on your chest, and the other hand you put a little lower, just in between your chest and me. It's not very low, but right on your diaphragm, right at the base of your, right above your navel, just above your navel, about a hand's breadth or so, right at the base of your rib cage. And that's where your diaphragm is. And what you do is it's really easy to do this lying down. It's a lot easier. The way that you do it is you lie down, and you would try and, when you breathe in, try and not move the hand on your chest, and try and push the hand on your diaphragm out or up. And one way that I know that people, one thing I know that they do to strengthen this, especially for people with severe lung issues, they will actually have them take books and put them on their stomach and raise and do, it's almost like press-ups or the bench press for your diaphragm. It really helps to strengthen that. So that's something that is really important. I've seen that recommended, and I've done those exercises myself. I need to do them more. If you're asthmatic, something like that, it can help. It's not going to be a cure because, again, these are not cures, but they can help. And so this is it's really important. Those non-meditative breathing exercises are really important. Now, I mentioned fasting before. Fasting is also very popular these days. Of course, there's different kinds. There is, in particular, there's really two major kinds of fasting. There's water fasting and juice fasting. Now, there's other kinds of fasting too, but I won't get into those at the moment. Really, the only kinds of fasting that can really be addressed here are water fasting and juice fasting. Now, what are those? Well, I'll start with a juice fast. A juice fast is where instead of eating solid food, you juice whole fruits, whole vegetables, and you just drink the juice, and that's all you consume for hours. I mean, maybe some water too. You drink water in between, but that's all you have all throughout the day. That's the source of your energy, source of your calories. You just juice and juice and juice and juice and juice. That's all you do. And that's very, very beneficial for people who, in particular, who have low levels of micronutrients. They're very malnourished, but they don't look they may or may not look malnourished. Someone who has a high level, especially in today's day and age, people who live on a standard American diet, who don't eat a lot of whole fruits or whole vegetables, they tend to have low levels of micronutrients, and so getting those, and also on top of that, phytochemicals are really beneficial components of that as well. And so you have those beneficial phytochemicals, which are the things that really help herbs do what they do, in the juice, as well as the micronutrients and macronutrients that you need all right there in the juice. So juice fasting is very beneficial for people who are malnourished in some way, shape, or form, who can then benefit from just the kind of sudden surge. And also people who have tendency to have blood sugar issues, juice fasting may help somewhat. That being said, it can cause your blood sugar to go like this. So there are other kinds. There's diabetic, medically supervised fasts, which is something else that I don't really. That's not my scope here. I've interacted with that. I know a little bit about it, but I don't know enough about it to really say anything about it, so I'm going to leave that. The other kind of fasting is water fasting. Now, as I said, I've done water fasting before. This is a fast where you don't eat anything, and the only thing you drink is water. So this is where you have no calorie input at all. And this is something that is beneficial. It helps give your fasting, juice fasting and water fasting in particular, these help really to give your digestive organs a break. People should do a fast every once in a while. Of course, there are, you want to be wise about it. And as this thing down at the bottom here says, bottom over there says, don't fast. Don't fast without talking to a doctor first, especially if you have diabetes. Do not fast, or if you think you have diabetes, or if you have pre-diabetes, metabolic syndrome, anything like that. If you have any kind of blood sugar issues, do not fast without talking to a doctor first. You need that supervision. But at the same time, those fasting can be very beneficial for blood sugar issues. So I strongly encourage you, if you do struggle with your blood sugar, fasting can really help. It's like the body's reset button. It's quite effective. But again, discuss it with a physician first before you do anything else. But water fasting is very beneficial if you want to really, it helps clear your mind. It helps and more than anything else, it helps you to, of course, depending on your circumstances. For me, it wouldn't. It can also help really reset your body and get things kicking into gear. Now again, this is something fasts should, with very, very, very few exceptions, fasts should not last longer than 3 days. There are very, very, very few exceptions to this, but generally speaking, fasts should never last longer than 3 days. This is just without your doctor saying so, the fast should never last for longer than 3 days. It's just bottom line. I know there's juice fasts for 10 days and for 7 days and 15 days, and there's the month. And of course, there was also the several years ago, there was the movie that came out, Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, where there was this dude who did a juice fast for something like 6 months. Now, he was very sick, and so again, and he did it with a doctor's supervision. This was something that he did, and of course, he helped jumpstart the juice fasting and the juicing craze in America in particular. And so, there are circumstances where these things can be extremely beneficial. Of course, he was trying to lose a ton of weight as well as get healthy really quickly. And that's something that definitely can be done. And there are benefits to it. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, how can I put this? At the same time, there is a real need to be aware that, generally speaking, you don't want to fast longer than 1 to 3 days. That's just the bottom line. But fasting can be very beneficial for detox. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to move on to herbs. Herbs are a really important component of any detox, and there's all sorts of different reasons why you might use herbs to detox. And of course there's different herbs that you would use, but what you're really doing with the herbs is you're targeting organs specifically. In particular, you're targeting internal organs. Now, you could target the lungs, but that's really more the focus of exercise. You could target the skin, and that's something that you could do, but that's really more the focus of hydrotherapy. And so really what you're wanting to look at are your liver, your kidneys, and your bowels. Those three are where your herbs are really going to come into play. Now, of course, we talked about the bowels already, and drinking water really helps the kidneys too. And of course, a healthy lifestyle in general helps the liver. But we're moving more specifically on targeting specific organs to help them detox. The liver is the principal detox organ. That's what it is. The liver is largely a detox organ. It has other functions, plenty of other functions, but one of its major functions is eliminating the toxins from the body. And so the liver it doesn't necessarily need help unless it's got a large load that's been placed upon it. And so sometimes it may need a little bit of help, or at least a little bit of soothing or an encouragement in those matters. And so in particular, these three herbs, chamomile, dandelion root, and milk thistle, these three herbs are very, very, very important for the liver. Chamomile is amazing. Chamomile is amazing. It's great for the liver. It's a relative of dandelion, and so it has those properties as well. And milk thistle actually is also a relative of dandelion. It's actually closer than chamomile is, come to think of it. But those three herbs, now, of course, you want to be careful. If you're allergic to ragweed or daisies or anything like that, be careful with chamomile, dandelion, and milk thistle, because those are all relatives of ragweed and the others. So if you have an allergy to that, you might want to check before you do those things. So, be aware of that. That being said, these three in particular are very, very, very useful for the liver. Dandelion root in particular, when you roast it, don't don't just use it raw. You aren't going to be able to stomach it. I just forewarning you. Please don't use dandelion root raw. It's not that it's going to hurt you. You won't be able to swallow. In fact, you'll probably be more likely to spit it out than anything else. It's not a very pleasant taste. Even if you dump sugar in it, it's just not going to work. And so roasted dandelion root, chamomile, and then milk thistle. Those three are really, really helpful for the liver, and especially for helping the liver to deal with toxins. Chamomile helps the liver to deal with the toxins, so does dandelion root. Milk thistle is unique in that it helps the liver cells to regenerate and, or at least it protects them. It protects the liver cells at the very least, and often it will help them to rejuvenate or regenerate the cells. So it stimulates the creation of new cells in the liver. And so it can help deal with any small areas of damage or larger areas of damage. Again, that's not for everybody. That doesn't happen with everybody. So be aware if you have a history of liver issues, liver diseases, then milk thistle can be of benefit, especially if your liver issues are the result of alcoholism and drug use, but and it won't override those, mind. If you're drinking and you're taking milk thistle at the same time, milk thistle's not going to do squat for you. You need to get rid of the drink and get off the drinking. That's just something that you got to do. And again, be careful. I've stated this in another program and another presentation I did. But please, if you're trying to stop drinking alcohol or taking drugs, please don't do it on your own. Talk to a doctor. I know it can sometimes be shame-inducing. It could feel embarrassing. I get that. Trust me, I understand, but at the same time, it's really important because your body can go into shock, and in fact, in particular, can go into delirium tremens, especially with alcoholism. So you want to be very, very careful with that. Just don't talk to your doctor about it. Now, the kidneys are something else, and once again, you've got to be cautious with this because, and that's why you need to talk to your physician, talk to an herbalist as well about these specific herbs. But these herbs in particular are very useful for the kidneys. Dandelion leaf, unlike dandelion root, focuses more on the kidneys. Nettles also really helps to focus on the kidneys. Slippery elm and marshmallow root really help with the urinary tract itself. They are demulcents, and so what they do is they help soothe any inflammation that may be there, and help really keep things to calm things down in case there's anything there that could be irritating. And so dandelion leaf and nettles really help to eliminate things, and slippery elm, marshmallow root help keep things safe and protected there. So those are really beneficial for the kidneys. As for the bowels, slippery elm and marshmallow root, those are also big ones, and chamomile once again shows up with that. Now, slippery elm and marshmallow root, again, because they're demulcents, they're demulcents because of their soluble fiber content, which means that they are what are known as bulking laxatives. Now, there is another kind of laxative, which is something more like what chamomile is, although chamomile is extremely gentle. Something that's a little bit more potent would be licorice root. I almost recommended licorice instead of chamomile, but licorice can be harmful to some people who have high blood pressure. And so chamomile is extremely gentle. It's not as strong as licorice, but licorice is also easily on the more gentle side of things. And so you want to be, and again, that being said, if a stronger one is recommended, especially if you have chronic constipation, and if you've had it for quite some time, then yes, absolutely a stronger laxative is most likely necessary, just to get things nice and moving along the way, and to eliminate buildup from those things. And so it's really important that you do that. Slippery elm and marshmallow root really help to bulk things up and to sweep things along. Chamomile helps to push things along. Sometimes a stronger regular laxative is necessary as well. Now, when it comes to how you prepare those, everything is so chamomile and nettles, chamomile, nettles, and dandelion leaf are infusions. Everything else is going to be a decoction. So dandelion root, which you should roast before you decoct it. Milk thistle, slippery elm, and marshmallow root should be decocted. So that's, again, you boil them in water. And the reason is because chamomile, chamomile, dandelion leaf, and nettles, those are all delicate plant parts that have phytochemicals that might be destroyed by constant heat in boiling. And whereas slippery elm, marshmallow root, and dandelion root, and milk thistle, these are plant parts that are thicker, they're tougher, and you're not looking for delicate chemicals. You're looking for fiber or more robust chemicals like salts and bitter salts and things like that. And so a decoction is much better for those. And also on top of that, you're wanting to get more out of it. And so again, you're going to want to decoct those tougher, thicker plant parts as opposed to infusing them like for the herbaceous parts of chamomile, dandelion leaves, and nettles. All right, hydrotherapy. Enemas are a very, very common hydrotherapy detox. You'll find them all over the place. They're quite common. Um, and of course, there's different kinds of enemas. We won't talk about all of them, but there's different kinds. There are even some still used today in regular hospitals. So enemas are very common as a detox, and what their real benefit is that they don't rely on a chemical to force these things out, and they don't rely on just natural processes. They basically it's literally just rinsing things out. And so it's really, really useful in that. On top of that, even strong chemicals can miss stuff because those chemicals, all they're doing is stimulating contractions of your organ of your bowels, and so if you are if you can really miss something. Even those chemicals can miss something. An enema doesn't miss anything. So enemas are quite useful for especially if you've had long bouts of chronic constipation and so on. An enema is very, very useful. As a matter of fact, my hydrotherapy tutor, and Dr. John Harvey Kellogg, that was his favorite. It was his favorite hydrotherapy treatment. Actually, it was an enema. Of course, his specialty was the bowels anyway. Performed something like 80,000 bowel surgeries in his lifetime. He was just a very prolific surgeon, and so that was his specialty. But he loved the enema. But enemas are not the only type of hydrotherapeutic detoxing. Saunas, steam baths, and the wet sheet pack are incredibly useful for eliminating toxins, in particular the wet sheet pack. Saunas are very commonly used. I have recently been interested in Finland and some of their culture, and one of the things that they use is the sauna. And so, and saunas are actually they're a big portion of their culture, and saunas are very, very, very useful for really sweating things out. That's what it is. Remember, sweating is a big portion of our. The skin is probably the biggest eliminatory organ that we have, and so it's really important. I mean, I think skin is the biggest organ that we have actually, and it is something that how shall I say it? It is probably next to the bowels the most important eliminatory organ. The bowels and the kidneys. That is the most important eliminatory organ. And that's because, again, when you're sweating, you're really, really getting rid of all those toxins that your body wouldn't put out through, wasn't getting out through the kidneys, the liver, and the bowels. So sweating is really important, and saunas really help you sweat. Steam baths also, and this is, I forgot to put a description of what a steam bath is, actually. It's where you're sitting on a chair. You're basically in a barber shop type thing, a hair salon kind of a situation where you have something around your neck, and you actually have a towel wrapped around your neck. You have a big drape over you, and underneath your chair, you have a pot of steaming water. A kettle or something like that, where you have steam coming up. Now, it's not coming directly onto you, it's coming around, and it's staying within. It's not escaping through your neck because it's sealed off with a towel, and it really helps you to sweat. It gets temperatures up. Of course, the head is kept cool the whole time. And this is really important because, again, it really induces sweating. Saunas are really good for this. Steam baths are better than a sauna in many cases, because instead of the whole body being exposed to it, you have, including the head, you have everything but the head that's being exposed to it, so you're sweating, but your head is also able to be kept cool. It's a lot safer than a sauna would be. The wet sheet pack is the single most important, at least according to Dr. Kellogg, and others as well. The wet sheet pack is probably the most effective at eliminating toxins. And again, I already referenced the wet sheet pack being an application where you have someone who is wrapped in a sheet of a sheet that's been soaked in cold water. It's been wrung out until it's almost dry, and then you wrapped around. It's wrapped around like you're basically swaddled in it, and then you're swaddled in a blanket, a double blanket, and then you're covered with another blanket, preferably a wool blanket. And then in this case, it's going to be a little bit longer. I couldn't find exact times in Kellogg's, referencing in Kellogg's book. I need to read some other resources on that. So specific times are a little out right now, but it does require more than one person, because you can't swaddle yourself and then swaddle yourself again and then cover yourself over. That's not the way it works. But basically, you're being swaddled. So with a cold, wet sheet, and then that sheet is going to heat up, and of course, you're going to start sweating, and so on. And so it's really important that you do that, and it really helps to sweat out toxins, to sweat out things like that. It's actually quite beneficial. And of course, in addition to this, friction and exfoliation are very important for clearing the skin of impurities. Exfoliation is very big because it helps to clear off dead skin, to slough off the dead skin that may be still there. It also, of course, it helps to get rid of excess sebaceous secretion, or just sebaceous secretions in general that have kind of built up. And it helps to unclog your sweat glands and things like that. There are a lot of people out there who have really poor skin circulation and skin elimination, and as a result, there is they tend to have a buildup of toxins on their skin. And so exfoliation really helps to get rid of the excess, and friction, skin brushing also, really helps to stimulate the circulation to the skin, which again helps with that exchange of impurities that's going on there at the skin. And so both friction and exfoliation are really important for clearing the skin of impurities. And of course, remember, when you have a warm or a hot application, always finish it with cool or cold. When the Finns are finished with their sauna, they go out and they jump in the ice water of their lakes, because Finland is the land of 1,000 lakes or something like that. Just land of lakes, and most of them are frozen, especially this time of year. So it's really, they do that. And so it's really important to finish all warm or hot applications with cool or cold. And of course, remember also that never be too warm or too cold to where it's uncomfortable for you. That's really important. Now, we're going to switch now a little bit as we're wrapping up here. We're going to switch from the physical facet of a human being to the more mental components, the mental facet of human being, and then we're going to switch to the relational facet. Remember, when we're dealing with detoxing and things in general, it's not necessarily the most pleasant experience. As a matter of fact, there can be quite an unpleasant experience in some cases, because we've got so much built up over the years of whatever circumstances might be. So it's not always going to be a pleasant experience, especially if you're using really strong laxatives, something like that. That can be quite uncomfortable. And so it's really important to remember to focus on finding good things out, even in unpleasant or uncomfortable situations. Now, again, it doesn't even have to be, just try, find good things. Go out of your way to look for good things, because our minds naturally gravitate towards finding bad things, or towards, seeing something that's not good, that's negative. We tend to really look at, this bad thing happened to me today. Oh, I'm so miserable right now. And that's not really beneficial. It's not really beneficial at all. So remember, try as much as you can and focus on finding good things. Now, this is not, don't ignore the negative things that are happening. Just, it's an issue of focus. Acknowledge them and say, hey, this is happening to me. And, if you need to deal with it, deal with it. Okay, don't ignore it. Don't ignore negative situations. Just try and focus on the positive side of things. It's really important that you do that. And of course, this goes right alongside this next one, which is examining your thoughts and beliefs for inaccuracies and falsehoods, and also less than useful ideas, and replace them, or at least work on replacing them, those beliefs and thoughts, with accurate and helpful beliefs and thoughts. And keeping with positive self-talk is probably the biggest thing that you can do, other than replacing your unhelpful thoughts, inaccurate thoughts, false thoughts, with true thoughts and helpful thoughts. I really can't understate it enough. And this is almost a mental detox, where you're saying, hey, look, I'm not this anymore, I'm now that. Sometimes you can't do this until after you've already done the physical detox. This is something that, and it has to do really with the way that your body is working. Because your mind is not separated from your body. Your mind is contained within the organ system. It's contained within your body. Just like, for example, a computer might have a processing chip that's limited, and so the computer's processing power, its speed, and so on, may be limited by the hardware. It's the same thing with us. Sometimes, even though our minds may be perfectly normal by themselves, if we have an hardware that's not working properly, so to speak, our organ system isn't working properly, then our minds aren't going to be functioning properly either. And so it's really important that, if sometimes, if you just like, hey, I'm not really feeling this right now, I'm not really able to deal with this mental component thing right now, maybe instead focus on the physical side of things. Because when you focus on the physical side of things and you take care of those things, then when you move over to the mental, then you'll be more able to do that, because you got a hardware that's working more properly at that point. And so sometimes you can do this alongside a regular physical detox, but sometimes you need to wait, and that's okay too. So keep that in mind. Mental health is just as important as your physical health, and it's inextricably linked. So it's really, really important that you look at, as much as possible, focus on the positive without ignoring the negative, that you examine your thoughts and beliefs for inaccurate and unhelpful ideas, and replacing those with accurate and helpful ones, and having positive self-talk instead of negative. So important. But even in addition to the mental health, look at your relational side of things too. Relational health is is also really important. Staying connected, of course, is important in general. Detoxing puts strain on the body and thus also on the mind. And so relationships can be very important for keeping centered during a detox. And of course, no relationship is more beneficial during any circumstance, especially any negative circumstance or unpleasant circumstance, than the relationship between you and God. Now, I know that there may be some people out there who go, well, goodness, you were talking about health, why do you have to bring God into this? It's because health and spirituality are inextricably linked. You can't be healthy, fully healthy, and not have a relationship with God. I can't stress that enough. There are some people who might think to disagree, but people who have a relationship with God have actually been proven to live longer than people who don't. And that is independent of any other factor. People who are religious do live longer than people who aren't religious. And that's taking into account suicides and social aspects and all sorts of things like that. So I can't overstate the importance. So too many people understate, and I can't overstate the importance of the spiritual relationship with God when it comes to your health. But of course, social relationships are also really important. Remember also to examine the nature of your relationships. And again, this does apply to both the relationships with other people and your relationship with God. These are some questions to ask yourself. Is this relationship healthy? Does it need some work? Is this a healthy relationship? Is this something that, am I really... is this a relationship that is functioning well? Is this, doing what it needs to do? Are we doing what, are we in a good relationship, or do we need to work on it? Is this other person somebody that is healthy for me to connect with in the first place? Are they treating me like they ought to be in the kind of relationship we're in? There's all sorts of things that can really involve in that. If you're in an abusive relationship, for example, whether it be an abusive work relationship, an abusive familial relationship, an abusive marriage situation, or an abusive spouse or partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, get out. Okay, there is no reason to be in those situations. I personally have been in a situation where I was in a work abuse situation, and that, I didn't know any better. But once I found out what it was, I knew I had to get out, and I did. I'm very grateful that I did. So getting out is huge for that. So if this is not a healthy individual for you to connect with, then get out. Don't stick around. Just don't. At least until you have established healthy boundaries for yourself and you are able to enforce them. Okay, it's huge, and I don't really have it outlined here, but I need to start looking at. I need to start putting together resources for establishing healthy boundaries in all sorts of relationships and things like that, because that's super important. And of course, when it comes to your relationship with God, asking those same questions can also really help. Is this something that, is this a healthy relationship I have with God? Does it need some work? And what are the things that I believe about God, and are they accurate? Because let me tell you something. If you believe that God is a tyrant, if you believe that God burns people forever in hell, if you believe that God delights in the torments of the wicked, if you believe that that God likes to watch people suffer, whether it be through if he is just kind of, oh, well, it doesn't matter, I'm not involved, the deistic God of yesteryear, who just kind of lets things happen without really involving himself anymore. If you have any of those beliefs about God, you need to check back and re-examine the scriptures, because none of those things are who God is. None of those things are actually found in the Bible. And as a matter of fact, it's really important that you check the source material. Re-examine the Bible. Say, hey, wait a minute, hold on. Does God burn people forever in hell? Does God delight in the sufferings of good people, or of people of innocence? Does God delight in that? Does God delight in the suffering of the wicked? Does God delight in, is God cruel? Is he mean? Does he have standards that he expects that nobody can attain to? What is God about? What is he like? Re-examine those things. I'm working on getting some stuff out that will really help focus on that, and there's plenty of resources out there that'll really help you to get to know the character of God. His justice, his mercy, his love, his kindness, all of those things are big components of that. And if you have any questions about that, reach out to me. I would be more than happy to help. And of course, there's also resources like Amazing Facts, It Is Written. Those are both really good. A Voice of Prophecy is another big one. They're also really good. And so you have those three resources right there, which are not affiliated with me, by the way. I have no association or affiliation with them. Those are all fantastic resources to get you started on learning from the Bible about who God is, what his character is like. I can't understate how important, I keep saying understate instead of overstate. I cannot say enough how important this is. And so, really get that stuff out there. And that being said, I'm going to open things up now for question and answer. So if you're watching via the live stream, then you can go ahead and put questions in the chat right now, and I'll answer them. If you are in the Zoom meeting, then now is your chance to really ask those questions if you have them. So I'm going to open it up now to the Zoom meeting. If there are any questions, I'm seeing no's. Okay. So those of you in the Zoom, or excuse me, in the live stream, now's your chance to ask those questions. So go ahead and type them in. I want to say as well, while we're waiting on everyone, once again, if you are new here, welcome to you. It's good to see you here. I'm hoping to be able to put out some new stuff in the future, some shorter videos. I'm wanting to put together a little series of Bible studies and things like that, just little like 10 to 15 minute videos. I'm hoping to do that. I'm going to be working on that the next couple of weeks. I'm still not quite sure exactly how the kind of the exact format I'm going to do, but I want it to be a Bible study. And I'm also wanting to do some other things as well, some music and some sacred poetry and things like that. That's all important. And of course, we're also doing things like, we also do have sacred history, Bible study, and the Bardic sessions on Saturdays, Sabbaths. At 10 o'clock, we have our sacred history. That's history in the light of the Bible and the actions of God. And the prophecies of God. And this is history going all the way from the beginning all the way up until modern times. So last week, for example, we talked about just a couple of days ago, we talked about the Cuban Missile Crisis, and a couple weeks before, we talked about Napoleon and the Battle of Waterloo. So it's really significant that this is, these are, and before that we were talking about Alexander the Great and then the sack of Rome. So there are all sorts of reasons why the sack of Rome in the 300s BC. So before Alexander the Great. So this is a huge time span here that we're talking about. So check us out there as well. That's at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific Standard Time for a Sacred History Bible study, where we're at 11:15, where we're continuing our series on warfare, Christian warfare. Don't miss that. We're going to be looking at the devil's last day strategies. Please don't miss that. And we're also going to be continuing our Bardic sessions as well. That's again Saturday, and that's at 12:30 or so, 12:20 to 12:30 Pacific Standard Time, 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So yeah, please check us out again on Saturdays as well. Please check us out. I'm not seeing any questions from the Zoom. From the chat. So we're going to go ahead, I think, and end it here. Once again, if you have any questions at all at any point, if you're watching via the recorded video and you made it this far, great, glad to have you here. Please leave your questions in the comments, either on YouTube or on Facebook. And of course, you can also reach out to me at any time at my Facebook page or my YouTube channel, and that's again at The King's Bard at both places. So yeah, please check us out. Please, really hoping that you'll be able to, you'll find a blessing. Got lots of recorded stuff on there. And hopefully I'm going to have some more stuff soon. That being said, let's go ahead and close out for the night with a word of prayer. So let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much once again for everything that you have done, for your grace, for your mercy, for your love, and most importantly, for your Son, Jesus Christ. Lord, we have entered upon the time of year when people are thinking about the birth of Jesus. And Lord, I just ask that you would please be with us, that you would anoint us with your Spirit, that your grace would sustain us, and that we would have our minds drawn to you, drawn to Jesus as never before, that we would come close to you in everything. Thank you again for everything, Lord, and please keep us until we should meet again. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray and ask these things, and thank you so much. Amen. Alrighty, thank you very much, everybody, for being here. I hope to see you all again soon. And I'm hoping to get some other videos and things